Hello and welcome to Coming Down the Pike. My name is Dirk Dempsey. I'm the Pike County Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Educator for The Ohio State University. And today I have a special guest with me.
Yep, I'm Kenny Lewis. I'm also an A&R educator, but in the better county, Souda County. And it's pretty close.
Pretty close. Okay. And it's just closer to the river.
Yeah, closer to the river.
Closer to the river.
Got them hills. Got
the hills. Well, we just have a little bit more farm ground then.
Maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit more.
Hey, woods are farm ground.
Okay. Well, that's what we're here to talk about today, right?
Yep.
Wildlife phenology and habitat design.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's first dig into what this series is. So this is Coming Down the Pike. So last year we had a monthly meeting series here in Pike County featuring different topics, whether that be agriculture or natural resources. And this year we've moved this series into a webinar. So this month we're going to have 3 events. All will be virtual. Just where you're tuning in now, you'll be seeing us in the next couple weeks. Today you heard our topic, but next week we'll hear from Josh Winters, who is our counterpart in Jackson County, and he's going to talk about tree identification. And then the week after that, we will conclude with invasive species identification from Jessica Burns up in Benton County.
She's the best.
And she has a lot of knowledge about that, and I'm excited to see where this series goes in terms of education.
For sure. It looks. Yeah. I'm excited to be here. I'm just excited.
To be here. Okay, good. So with that, we're going to cover a little bit about phenology, growing degree days, plant phenophases, and habitat design.
Yep.
Now, Kane, you know what phenology means?
I have no idea.
No idea. Well, phenology is kind of like an ancient science, if you think about that.
Okay.
When we go back to the hunter and gatherer time period, just a few years ago, more like 20, 30 years ago, something like that. And, and when we're thinking about phenology, those hunter and gatherers knew where their food sources were, and they knew the time period of when it was in vegetative stage and when it was ready for harvest. So they would do what they could to protect that area, whether it was a berry species, maybe they had some fruit trees. They would do what they could to protect that, and then understand when the sun was making the fruit into what they could harvest and eat and consume. So phenology is just an ancient way of thinking about growing degree days. Much like when we're farming today in modern agriculture, we know we have a schedule, right? We plant as soon as we can get in the ground and the soil reaches 50 degrees in terms of Fahrenheit. And we also know when that harvest is.
You know what's funny is wildlife have that with their own head. You know, if you see deer, they have their warm season, they have their cold season habitat that they know. Like when it's hot, they like to be where it's real thick. You know, they got their babies with them. They're growing their antlers. They like just being able to eat, not move a lot. They just like to hang out. They're packing up for winter, right? And then once winter time's coming around, they got to start moving around. They got to find that stuff.
That's a great point, because cool season and warm season. Warm season, I like to talk with students and say, well, that's June, July, and August, right? That's the hottest time of the year, and cool season is the rest. And you're exactly right. And then that goes into plant phenophases and how we can design some habitat for wildlife. Where that be deer, turkeys, even our
bird watching.
Birds.
Anything.
Now, Ohio State has this really great tool. It's called the Ohio State Phenology Calendar. You simply can go in, you can put your zip code in there, and you can see what is going on in your part of the state. And being able to tell, what's happening here in Piketon might not necessarily be the same thing that's happening down in Portsmouth.
It's not either. Even our zone has changed, right? What is Piketon right now?
6, are we 6A?
Yeah.
And you're 6B?
It's something like that. I definitely know that. No, we're in 7, aren't we?
You're 7.
Yeah, we changed to 7 this year.
We were 6A, now we're 6B.
So it's crazy on how it's all changing. And that's, I don't know, it's just crazy that that's how it is already.
I can go to records in my on my farm and find a 1960 label for corn seed. And my grandfather planted 97-day corn relatively maturity corn. And here in 2024, so what's that, 64 years later, we're planting 118-day corn.
Right.
So we're seeing a shift of 3 weeks.
Warmer day,
Warmer days.
I mean, you can just tell that through our winters. Our winters has changed even just since I was a kid. And so it's getting warm. It's getting warmer.
Along with the phenology calendar, Ohio State has some great critical resources for weather monitoring. Like if you wanted to find the last frost date for this year or last year, you can go to that link that's going to be on the screen to be able to find all of that information on moisture levels, what the soil temperature is based on what depth that is. There's a lot of resources that people don't realize that Ohio State University Extension actually has.
That's right, yeah.
So we talked a little bit about that phenology, right? Used to predict food availability within their ecosystem. And Kane, you mentioned that about deer and turkey.
Yep.
Now, I happen to know from a good source that you've been out in the woods doing a little bit of hunting. Is that correct?
Yep, hunting. Yes.
Would you care to share a little bit about food availability for these wildlife that you're out there looking for?
Yeah, so when we're taping this, I'm going to make sure we're safe because I don't know if you do post it later or something. It's in April, the end of April, so it's April 30th, so that's been about 2 weeks of season and turkey season. And so what's available for turkeys right now? What do you think?
I don't know.
So
probably lots of things.
A lot of things. Yeah. Guess what's came out the most right now? What do you get on you when you walk outside?
Well, whenever I walk outside, it's always a tick. I'm sure there's probably plenty of those out there.
Ticks are plenty. Yeah. Bugs. They love eating bugs. Yeah. You know, what happens when it rains real hard? What goes all over the road? Worms.
Worms? What else can slither?
That's all I know. But yeah, so they like eating the worms.
Yeah.
And that's what they like. And so the berries are starting to come out, right? Okay. So they're going to be coming out, so they're going to be looking for those. Mm-hmm. But mostly just them bugs are coming out. Yeah. And they're actively, you see the hens, you see the toms actively going up and down fields, clearing out them bugs. Yeah. And you think about it, how precise them birds have to see those. I mean, I can't see all the ticks, even when they're on me.
Right.
And so being able to see that. So that's one thing that we know that turkeys are going to be a little bit more active when there's all these bugs and creatures out there.
Do you think that's why hunting season is scheduled around the time that they're going to be most active?
I think it's for the mating season mostly.
For mating season.
Yeah.
Would you care to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So mating season for turkeys. You know, turkeys have nests. They're not mammals, right? And so they lay about an egg a day per about 21 days, I believe. Wow. And so it could be up to 20, 18, I think they say 18 or 12 to 18 or something like that. So they'll meet with Tom and then they'll go to their nest. Now, usually you find turkeys in these wide open spaces where they can see, right? Well, not when they have nests. These hens want to go find this real thick stuff to hide their nest in because they don't want stuff to. And that's one thing why turkey populations went down for several years is because people don't coon hunt anymore. They don't do this stuff. A lot of people blame the bobcats, but research has not been able to prove that it's the bobcat population yet. But it's been told that it's been the coon population eating the eggs and stuff. So if you find a place that people coon hunt, you might have turkeys there.
Yeah.
The turkey that me and Dad killed our bird, or Dad killed his bird at. At a place that's been coon hunted. Don't have that many coons.
So a little bit about that food web interaction, right?
Yeah.
Predator and prey.
Yep, predator and prey. And so then it goes back to the thing is sometimes coon can overeat what they have, you know what I mean? If they overeat, that's going to lower the turkey population. Then it's going to go back to taking down the coons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but now, what does moisture have to do? I know we've seen it be dry. We've seen some torrential rain so far this spring. What about the water cycles in terms of your habitat?
Okay, so I talked a lot about the eyesight of turkeys. If we're going to we'll keep talking about turkeys for a minute. If they can see really well, maybe that they can't smell. Like that's one thing. That's a big thing. They can't smell if something's coming. That's one thing with deer. They can't smell. So turkeys love when it's raining to go out in open fields. That's when it's raining is the best time to go turkey watching because you can see them. They're out in the fields. They're out where they can actually see. When it's raining and it's moving all this stuff, it makes it hard to see and they can't smell anything. So when it's raining and you're hunting, there's your habitat to look for. You know what I mean? More open field areas. If we talk about, if we're talking about bees, where are the bees going to be when it's pouring down rain? and the hide, right? They're not going anywhere. But turkeys love to get out in the open, and that's when they want to make sure that they can see everything.
Yeah.
Also, when it's raining, where do you think they best want to be? They're out in the field. What else is out in the field?
We got lots of forbs and grasses, right?
Yeah, but what's out in the field on farms?
Or we livestock. I like livestock.
You know why?
Yeah.
What do cows do? They watch. They're watching for predators. That's just an extra set of eyes.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you're out looking for turkeys and it's pouring down rain, go buy a livestock field. I guarantee you're gonna find turkeys.
Right. Good deal. And then, livestock, that's also another part of the food web, right?
It is.
It all interrelates.
It is.
Good stuff there. So we mentioned a little bit about the phenology calendar and the growing degree days. These are often best utilized to help estimate the growth during the season.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit about how the season has extended a little bit here in Southern Ohio. And it's just important for us to understand what plants work together. Now, you talk about being out in the open, grazing, grazing livestock. They're grazing on cool season forages right now.
Right.
Soon we get into the summer, there's going to be a warm season.
Yep.
But we've also got those forbs. Sometimes we've got different herbs in pasture fields.
Right.
It all depends on what we know when we plant these different forbs and grasses, when they're going to mature, so that we keep that healthy living root. And we talk about food web, right? That beneficial bacteria and fungi in the soil.
Yes.
All of that is interrelated. So working with that, we deal with a lot with the relationships, and much like our job is a relational job.
Yes.
We work with many different types of clientele, whether it be on the agriculture or natural resources component of our jobs, but being able to see when those flowering plants are going to be active.
Right.
Because we'll have pollinators. You mentioned bees being active. Maybe those birds. Maybe you're just a bird watcher. You're interested in trying to identify as many different bird species that we have.
Yep.
Or we have sometimes those pests, right? We've got apple trees or peaches in the backyard. We know when we need to protect those.
When they're down.
So we need to protect those fruit trees that we have.
Yeah.
So Kane, I'm going to kind of turn this over to you for just a little bit and talk about wildlife habitat design and kind of the steps that you see that are critical. And if someone wanted to buy a property here in Pike County or even your greater county of Scioto County, right? What they would need to do in order to make that successful.
Okay. One thing that you really want to focus on, you got to make a list on what you want. Because some things are going to be different and some things are going to be the same. Some animals, if you're wanting become a bird watcher, setting up some birdhouses definitely ain't going to hurt anything, right? Do not butcher it, because I was at the woodland meeting, and you don't know how many times that people will just, I'm going to take out all this, I'm just going to clear it all out. Well, that's habitat, right? You have to have give and take for all these things. Like I said, turkeys love wide open spaces, right? But they also need those very thick spots to put their nest. If you butcher everything and have that lawn that looks like Wimbledon, is that the
Wimbledon where we play tennis?
Yeah, where you play tennis. What's that big? What's a good golf course?
We've got Big Beaver Creek here in Pike County.
Okay, we'll say it looks like Beaver Creek. There's not going to be a lot to live there besides Canadian geese.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you need something thick for those little animals, because guess what? Those little animals are going to bring big animals.
So if we're trying to design it just for turkey habitat, we're going to have different goals than if we're trying to attract those big white-tailed bucks, right?
A little bit. Deer can be a little bit easier to help maintain. So turkey, if we want to keep turkey just during hunting season, we want to have some open woods. We want to have some good open timber. We want to have a little bit of briars around, so a little bit of thick stuff around, so the hens will be coming around laying their eggs in that. But you want the big trees, man. You want the big roosting trees, because turkeys don't sleep on the ground. They go up and roost, right? And so you want them big old open trees where they can get up there and just gobble their heads off in the morning. You might, it depends on if you got hills or not. Up the hill, if you want to keep it a little bit more open down the hill, so when it rains they can go out into the pasture and get open. Another thing is you want a water source. You creek.
Critical.
Yeah, water's always critical with anything.
Often the most important nutrient, right?
About every time. If you don't have that, anywhere close, yeah. And, you know, I went down to Texas and hunted. The only place you needed to hunt was around water, because guess what? They haven't stopped to get water a lot more than our birds, for sure. But yeah, if I could have some open woods, clear cut, a little clear cut right beside that, and then a pasture with a water source in between that, that's exactly what I want. A-okay with me. Yeah. Now, a lot of people do this for turkeys, and it has been proven that it has helped tremendously with the populations doing burns. Now,
prescribed burns.
Yeah, prescribed burns. Now you have to go and get that. You can't just start setting your
process.
Yeah, do not start setting your woods on fire, people. Whatever you do, I did not tell you to.
Big letters on the screen.
Do not. Yeah, please. But it has been proven to help the turkey population, because you get these woods that's been open for this whole time, and then that canopy starts dying out, and all this undergrowth gets real thick. Well, if you go down and burn underneath it, for one, you're starting new forages on the bottom, right? You're starting all these new insects. Everything's becoming new, and those turkeys absolutely eat that up. The hunting public does a great job of doing that. So if talking about that and doing the research with that. So
awesome. Good deal. And so maybe in the middle of designing, we could give you a phone call. There are people within the university extension system that can help you with habitat design, depending on what stage you're at. Maybe
definitely.
You're just starting out. You just bought that property, and you need to figure out what we can do to start planning.
Right.
Maybe we're buying seed.
If you bought this place and it's really thick, but it's full of the wrong trees, it might even be better to start from the beginning and plant some good oaks, maples in there. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Because you don't want that tree of heaven in there. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that you're getting the good stuff started. It might take a while, but that's wildlife.
And then
it takes that.
We're extension. We're one part of that.
Yes.
We can help you consult with Ohio Division of Natural Resources.
Yeah.
And
Ohio Woodlands,
all kinds of people.
Call before you cut. Whatever you do, call before you cut.
Yeah, that's a good one too. A good resource that most people don't realize.
Definitely.
Give access to.
Definitely, for sure. Here we go. This is about you.
Pollinators, right?
Yeah.
So, Kane, do you like ice cream?
I love ice cream.
Okay. Well, did you know that ice cream has to be pollinated?
I did not.
Yeah. So, what do dairy cows eat? Think about grass. Think about a legume.
You lost me.
They eat alfalfa.
Okay.
Yeah, alfalfa is one that needs to be pollinated. Has this gorgeous purple flower. I'm going to put that up on the screen too.
Okay, yeah.
And it's one that needs to be pollinated to be able to survive. It is a perennial legume forage. But in order to get ice cream, you have that alfalfa plant that is then converted into your precious milk and then converted again to ice cream.
That's right.
So alfalfa unfortunately is not native to our great state of Ohio or southern Ohio, but it can thrive.
Right.
But it is one that pollinators can help you produce that product of ice cream.
Yeah.
But native plants, think about some native plants that we have. Here in Pike County, we see a lot of big blue stem and little blue stem, switchgrass and Indian grass. Those are our native warm season grasses.
Okay.
Remember we talked about those warm and cool season, right?
Right.
So native plants also thrive better.
Yes.
If we do a soil test and it comes back within reason, it's not like in the 4s on the pH or it's not in the 8s.
Yeah.
There's probably a good chance that native plants will benefit because it's more adapted to our environment.
Yeah.
A forb is a fancy word for a flowering plant. This one's not a grass or a sedge or a rush. It is a pretty plant. It's a forb.
It's one of the pretty
And
ones.
so we have lots of options for those.
Yep.
Probably too many to list. And then it's funny that you mentioned that we can see enhanced turkey population in a livestock operation. But one of the things that we need to realize when we're grazing livestock is some of these plants are better off that are drought resistant. Those would be those native warm season grasses. One, they're more tolerant for our soils.
Yep.
And two, they like to grow a lot when it's warm.
Yep.
June, July, and August, right? And then we can enhance our biodiversity by making a concerted effort to make our wildlife habitat more diverse by putting in those pretty forbs that we might like to look at.
Yep.
Or even just the different types of the native grasses that we have available to us here in southern Ohio.
Right.
One thing that I want to make you aware of, Did you know that a healthy environment is not always the prettiest?
I actually
You probably did that.
I did.
But most people want to see those gorgeous stripes in their
Beaver Creek
yard,
golf,
right?
yeah.
The golf course on their house. They might actually be better off to have what's called a bee yard.
Yeah.
Take a 6x6 plot, 5x5. It could be a 2x3, and it would still have a great impact on the pollinators that we have.
You know, even just having a brush pile, even having just a small brush pile. I mean, for one, people are going to look at your house and go, maybe I don't need to break into that one.
Right.
Especially outside, you never know. But
And one of my favorite forbs, my favorite flowers is the purple coneflower. It's native to here in southern Ohio.
Yep.
We're looking at a picture of it right now on the screen. It's one that it's got purple in its name, right? So it's going to be purple. That's great for pollinators, whether that's going to be your butterflies, your wasps, your bees, your native bees, because it's got that bright color that they're attracted to. Much like a sunflower. If you were to plant sunflowers in your backyard, they're going to be attracted to those bright colors.
Definitely, yeah.
A lot of times you see solar being put into fields or backyards. You can actually grow a pollinator habitat, wildlife habitat around these structures and make it not look so dreary.
Yeah.
Right?
It does look a little sad.
So, when it's just those solar panels, it looks a little sad because what have we done? We've created that monoculture, right? We've created the golf course in between all the solar panels.
Yeah. It takes away from all the stuff that was already there, and you just putting in what you want. And what you want is not always the best thing.
Right.
In solar panels, I have seen people run goats.
Yeah, you can run livestock, small livestock.
Yeah.
I can't put my cows back there.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
they'd be rubbing up on some stuff.
Yeah. But small ruminants.
But that's really cool. I didn't know that they did that. Like that's beautiful.
Yeah. So we can, in between rows of solar panels, or even if you just have a solar panel in your backyard, you can create a small wildlife habitat. You might see some pheasant and quail walk through there, hopefully, and see this place, really bloom and colors all throughout the growing season.
You know what I don't get? A lot of people are very, you shouldn't kill animals or you shouldn't, do that kind of stuff. And to each their own, right? But if you go back to that last one, there is more life in that than there is anywhere. If you have a freshly cut, beautiful, I mean, there's so many bugs and organisms and everything that's living in that.
Beneficial bacteria.
It is so beautiful. And it's all, like you said, it's a circle and it's going to keep growing.
All
and
part
that's
of that interconnected food web.
Exactly. And that's just beautiful to think about, is there's so much more life that people don't recognize if you let that happen. You know what I mean? If you don't try to control it and let nature do its course.
Yeah.
And you might have to help nature, but you understand.
Yeah. And then we talked about that integrated management system with livestock operations.
Yep.
A buffer strip between the road and the field can be as simple as preventing weeds, our invasive noxious weeds. Unfortunately, we're going to start to see a lot of bolting happening with the poison hemlock plants along the roadways, or our favorite friend, the Johnson grass, that spreads by seeds or rhizomes, when we could have a beautiful aesthetic, one that's adding for the wildlife, the pollinators.
Oh, yeah.
And all it takes, as you can see there on the screen, is a 2-foot buffer strip.
Yeah, just
wouldn't that be something?
All the way down, it would be no problem.
No, I want to talk about a project that I was so blessed to help with when I first started here in Pike County. This is the First Presbyterian Church in Waverly. This is behind the Government Center. And they wanted to take 4 acres that they were mowing, that monoculture yard, that perennial fescue yard, and convert that into a pollinator habitat.
That's awesome.
That's a huge project.
That's a lot of acres.
And
to just start out.
And it was in 3 sections. You had the west, the south, and the east lawns that they wanted to convert that into. And one of the first things we did was took a soil test to make sure
we got to test.
To make sure we're right there. Yeah, we want a soil test, not guess.
Yeah,
because if we had any nutrient that was way off, we would have had some issues with
then you have to fix it. I mean, that's just what
fortunately, we didn't have that.
Yep.
The next step was to look at the grass because, how tall is that grass right there?
I mean,
2.5, 3 inches?
If that.
Yeah. So the first thought was to let that grass grow for 2 weeks, and we'd meet back.
Let's see what happens.
See what happens.
See what's there.
Well, I had some bad news. there was a lot of that. Our favorite friend, the Johnson grass.
Jordan Penrose says you can make good hay out of it.
Yeah, you can feed some cows if you cut it the right time. But in this case, in Waverly, I don't think
they're putting no
fencing. Yeah, but yeah,
not at the church.
Not at the church. So we had some opportunities, as you can see there. We were looking for that beautiful aesthetic that we've already kind of seen.
Yes,
but on a very large scale.
Right.
So, do you think we could handle Johnson grass?
It's gonna be tough.
That's a tough one. That's a tough
especially
one,
if you got a lot of it.
Yeah, and if you looked at that west and the south lawns there, I would say that it was about 60% of the population was Johnson grass. It was really bad.
Really? So
now, one of the recommendations we came up with was 4 applications of herbicide because they wanted to get this into the ground the following year. So we had a short amount of time to try to control the Johnson grass and its other friends as quick turnover, but we also wanted it to be the most cost effective.
Right.
Yes, probably prescribed burning would have been a good option had it not been in town.
Yeah, definitely could have done it. I see houses.
Yeah, the houses are right beside this farm area.
Yeah.
But they were able to hire a commercial outfit to go through and put 2 rounds of glyphosate and then 2 rounds of glufosinate.
That's what you need.
Products that were systemically controlling the Johnson grass.
Yep.
And we were able to give that recommendation to, kind of slow down that growth because one of the things it's the hardest thing to do is to be able to prevent that Johnson grass from outcompeting these native grasses and forbs.
Right, they're just made to outgrow.
Yeah, they're ultra competitive. Yeah. Kind of like us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But if you were just doing this in a backyard, you could just lay down black plastic, cardboard, and smother out that grass, or the Johnson grass in this case, to be able to kind of control that. And you could do that for, about a growing season. You could do it for half a year, but it would give you some control.
Right.
But in this case, where we're covering almost 4 acres, the chemical control method was the best option.
100%.
Yeah. Now you could have went through with a plow and a disc and done some cultivation, but probably not there.
It'd be tough. Yeah.
And who's to say what else is in that seed bed that we're going to turn out?
I don't know, but you're going to figure out.
We would find out pretty
quick. Yeah.
And so we would still be in the same boat as having probably ultra competitive weeds compete with our new seedling, new seeding. One of the coolest things that's probably an option for small ones is solarization. Okay. You ever heard about that one?
Nope.
So we could take clear plastic, and all that does is it creates a gap between the plastic and the soil, and it essentially captures that radiant energy and burns off that grass. But then again, probably not going to be applicable for a 4-acre field.
How big that is.
But we were trying to create that healthy environment. Remember, we're done with the perfect landscape.
Yeah.
We wanted that environment for the pollinators. So it took, several months.
It's going to take time.
It took a year.
Yep.
One of the things is to manage expectations.
Right.
And we're still managing expectations, 2 years out from that initial visit.
Right.
Because it was 2 years ago in February when I made that initial visit.
Right.
And, we were able to see that following year, that new seeding pop up. We've seen identified different grasses. Different forbs.
Yep.
We've seen some beautiful black-eyed Susans.
Awesome.
Several different colors of other forbs throughout the growing season last year.
Awesome.
And I can't wait to see what happens this year.
Definitely.
Some of those pollinators could include 140 different species of butterflies.
And they're all beautiful too.
They're all beautiful.
They're all beautiful.
And one of the things that they made sure when they put in the seed was to add in milkweed for the precious monarchs.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, the monarchs have really been limiting in terms of their population. So creating them a habitat would be inclusive of them as well. Wasps, bees. Did you know they all pollinated?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Let's go back to that. Go back a few slides. I want to talk about. Keep going. Keep one more. Okay, right there. Man, do you see what that is? Off at would be the east side. Is that the east side?
Yeah.
The east side. What's off behind there?
We've got that nice woodland area,
Nice
right?
woodland.
And if you take a gander out back there's also a creek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is once this all comes about and you have more organisms and insects and all this stuff. What do you think's going to start popping
I
up?
think we might see some turkeys.
You might see some turkeys.
You know what I'm really hoping to see, and I don't know if they'll ever nest there. I'd like to see some pheasants,
That would be cool.
but I don't know if being that close
To the road,
to the road, because that road is very loud.
Yeah. But man, that is. I mean, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
You said we were talking about it. And I started looking. I was like, wow, that's a little chunk of wood right there. And if you open that up and start giving them something to eat, there's something to drink.
And they've got proper. Remember, the most limiting nutrient, water. They've got it. It's right
exactly.
there.
So something to think about.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Oh yeah.
No,
You can go ahead and read that.
I'm not the honey.
Yes,
I'm not the honeybee. I'm allergic, so I stay away from him. This guy, he's a professional. He knows everything about there is.
Rookie.
We know bees are awesome. If you don't know bees are awesome, bees are awesome.
They're awesome because they make honey.
They do. They make honey. They're just workers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just put the nose to the grindstone.
Yeah. And they go and pollinate all of our crops. Whether it's alfalfa.
They keep us running.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do.
You know, and a bee has a lifespan of 40 to 45 days.
Yeah, ain't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Because the same hive you had this year is not going to be the same
In 40 days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And you know, as they get to the end of their life cycle, they visited their favorite flower hundreds, if not 1,000 times, moving that pollen back and the nectar back. And then most of the time when they're active is 5 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But as they approach the end of their lifetime, they actually take naps out in their favorite flower and kind of watch and enjoy nature, which is funny because we're enjoying our wildlife and nature oftentimes when we're out and about.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of turkey you're going to see wherever bees are. Because wherever bees are, it's going to be almost the same habitat.
And then we've improved biodiversity if we have these habitats.
Yep.
But you know what we've also done? We've also
effective. Save money.
It's saving us money. It's also preventing erosion.
Yeah,
It's keeping the soil where it's supposed to because of that healthy living root.
Right. Keeping that there. Where it should be.
Right, where it should be.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do this in your backyard, you can do it as a pollinator garden. You can do it as a wildlife haven.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a 4-acre plot.
No.
It can be, like we've talked about, 2 foot by 3 foot.
I mean, look at that picture. What is that, an 8 by 8? 8 by 10?
Yeah, and there's a smaller one just beside it.
Yeah.
I mean, you might start out with a small patch right there, and like, okay, I can make more of that.
Yeah.
It's really, really easy.
And park a chair right there and see which one has more life in it.
Right.
The grass that's been cut or that's full of stuff. I mean, it's
full.
And which one looks better? I believe the flowers.
I like the flowers too. That's the
me.
beautiful aesthetic for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, there are many places where you can find seed. We're lucky here in Pike County. Our Pike County Soil and Water Conservation District is actually able to order you seed for any of your needs, whether it's a CRP project, CREP, maybe it's just, hey, I want to put out a little wildlife habitat in my backyard. They can order you seed, and then you can work with them. You can do it yourself. Find a contractor and put that into your yard. Maybe you've got 4 acres you want to do, and then make that into a beautiful habitat.
Yeah. And talk to one of us before you do it. I mean, we can.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's exactly. We can come out, talk. Oh, you should maybe do this here, or give you just small options, or see what would be the best to put out. You know what I mean?
And lastly, I want to talk about is managing those expectations, because just like you talked about when starting a habitat design. We want to create that plan. You want to work through all the steps you've mentioned. And we want to make sure that we understand it's a process and it might take us longer than it realizes. I know we want it now, but I promise you, if you trust the process, there are things that fall into place that give you a good result.
Good results. That's one thing that's why people love just them well-cut grass. It's easy to do.
Right.
But
gives you the instant gratification, right? I've just made this the nicest looking yard in the community.
But if you just follow your plan, make your goals, you'll be fine. It takes time. It is a process.
Now, if you are looking for more information, whether you're looking for pollinator quick guides, maybe you even want to know how to grow your favorite fruit or vegetable, we have a resource for that, and that's on ohioline.osu.edu. If you want to find more about bees, you can visit u.osu.edu/beelab.
Yep.
And then, do you have any other resources for wildlife?
Oh yeah, easily. You can just put OSU Extension Wildlife
Right into Google.
and you'll find what you need. Or call down to my office. This guy knows everything about bees. I've already said it. So if you have a bee question, I'm sending you to him. Just letting you know. But yeah, just you can easily OSU Extension and then type in what you want, and I'm sure there's something there for you.
And then we'll put our contacts on the screen for our office phone numbers, emails. That way, if you have a question about what you've seen today, feel free to ask us, and then we'll do our best to help you out with finding an answer.
By far, yeah.
There are several land-grant universities across the country, and a lot of this information that we've talked today, they've done research on it. We've done it here at Ohio State, and one of the great things about a land-grant university is how much of information is shared between each university.
Yeah, and it's all research-based. It's all, and
it's not just someone's opinion.
Exactly.
It's actually proven.
Exactly. And you know what's someone's opinion on how well that yard looks?
Yeah. There you go.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, if you want to give us a call, there'll be our phone numbers and our email addresses listed here on the screen. We really appreciate the time today. I want to thank Kane for coming up to Piketon here to help record and make this video. And if you need anything, you know where to find us.
Yeah. Thank you.